Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed your breakout rooms and got a little bit accustomed to the Jamboards. And so now is our time to just do some sharing back. So I guess we can start with group one, breakout room one. If you guys wouldn't mind sharing your your key takeaway from um, thinking about what changes or innovations are needed in your current program. Maybe you could give a little background in your 2 minutes. I know it's really quick. Which program is represented by your group as well. I can share. I can share your my screen so we can see. So it looks like breakout room had Lisa, Karen, Leslie, Pilar.
Hi, this is Lissa. I pretty much was the only one speaking with Pilar in our breakout room. So I work with the Western Regional Office with Food and Nutrition Service with USDA. I'm not part of the entity that Jamie worked with to develop the guidelines, but I guess one thing that I can share that we're very aware of is that these guidelines also aimed to incorporate more representation in relevancy to and strived for more racial equity. And so there are efforts on the way to develop more racially equitable consumer resources. And I guess I want to brag on Oregon that I'm aware of. And I think that this would be great if other states are able to develop and adopt some sort of infrastructure, but their SNAP-Ed stakeholder group is very well connected throughout the whole state, and they've developed actually racially equitable. They've developed multiple work groups that that represent almost every single diverse group that is existence in Oregon. So they have a African heritage, Asian, um, Indigenous people, Latinx work group, and also for seniors and an ECE work group. And so with that, they've been able to develop for themselves many great nutrition and food system education resources that are from recipes to newsletters and the like. And so that kind of model is kind of what is needed to ensure that we have representation of the groups that are in existence in your states. But so that's just an example.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. It's really great. Okay, so now we have group two. You guys have very active Jamboard.
Hi, this is Sarah from Nevada. So the main thing that we really talked about is we really emphasized how we liked the addition of the life course approach and the emphasis on that. That we did talk a little bit about some more like provider specific trainings emphasis. California said that they were working on a preconception tool utilizing MyPlate, and they're working on testing it with providers right now. And we would like to see a little bit more information on really how health can start before an individual is even conceived. And, as pregnancies often are unplanned, getting those of conception age to really start thinking about that and working on their health, both men and women as well, and not just, okay, I have a child, should I breastfeed or not, and have it really start before conception and during pregnancy as well.
Thank you, Sarah, for sharing. So we have breakout room 3.
I can speak. So, hi, my name's Alia. I'm a trainee from California, UCLA. And something that we talked about also was My Plate. Suzanne is also working on revising My Plate, and one of the things that she mentioned was challenging was communicating about dairy recommendations. So specifically, she mentioned like which nutrients we want people to get from milk and or their dairy substitutes, and just the different kinds that are available. And then this kind of prompted Anna Rita to talk about her experience with working on reservations and how a lot of the people there don't have access to refrigeration. So this makes me, meeting the recommendations for dairy very difficult. And if either of them want to chime in or add anything else, please do so.
Yeah. So here on the reservation, we about 82% of us are on some sort of USDA funded nutrition assistance, whether it be like WIC, food distribution, SNAP. And a lot of their guidelines are a little bit different. Their recipes are different, and there are some curriculums that we can teach out of, and there's some recipe books that we can't teach out of, but they're not all the same. I kind of think they should integrate all of those recipes and those curriculums into one, so that all of these programs are using one cookbook or one kind of like My Plate. My Plate is across the board, but just to make it easier for everybody to access, and it'll probably save a lot of money on the USDA side.
Yeah. I'm hearing like consistency in these messages and programs. Yeah.
Yeah, consistency.
Great point. Thanks for sharing. So we have breakout room 4.
Well, we didn't get as far as coming up with a group speaker. This is Sandy Van Kelkar, but we did focus on resources. Sandy Perkins from ASPHN will be going through their resources to make sure they are in line with the new dietary guidelines. Jordan from Montana was talking about the increase in the cash value benefit that will be starting for fruits and vegetables, which was also an important contribution.
Thank you for sharing, Sandy. So we have group 5, room 5.
Sure. We had a great discussion. We had a lot of questions about because a couple of us were kind of on the ground with nutrition, so we had some questions about stuff. Yeah. So what we took out of it is I was just really excited to get that overview of the nutrition guidelines, just because since COVID hit, I've had to do like every job besides nutrition manager and like kindergarten teacher, as you can hear my son in the background. So I was really excited to get that overview of it, because it just kind of brought my mind into the actual specific nutrients that I wanted to create nutrition education around for our program. And what I'm taking from it is those specific nutrients would be directly dealt with if we raise fruits and vegetables, which I'm very excited that WIC is going to do that this summer. And I'm also going to collaborate extra hard with the farmers in our state to try to get us to have a deal with them to do more than $30. So just to like really meet these nutritional requirements. So that was one thing I brought up. Holly, who's I believe she's on she's Navajo Nation, if I heard correctly, but they have a lack of access to fruits and vegetables. Or even grocery stores, which is heartbreaking. But she was talking about how they're combating it, which is great, is teaching gardening classes. And then they would like to, after this presentation, work with the guidelines that we learned into the gardening program to encourage the meal programs and to increase people's consumption of fruits and vegetables. So they're doing that there, and they also do canning for the wintertime too. So they're finding really innovative ways to get these nutrients into her participants. So those were like the two things we talked about specifically with the question, and then we kind of just had a really nice conversation about just nutrition in general and how we're dealing with the inequities in our states.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's what we're hoping will happen in these breakout rooms. Room 6, who'd like to share?
Hi, this is Carol Huey from UC Berkeley. The two things that came up in our breakout room was that they needed to have more education, among the community stakeholders on what things are new in the guidelines regarding pregnancy and lactation, and specifically the 0 to 24 month pieces. And that WIC just really needs to have a better packaging revamp, just to be able to incorporate more fruits and vegetables to meet the guidelines, decreasing the juice amount and including more proteins.
Thanks, Carol. And I have breakout room 7.
Hi, everyone. I am Danielle Conlin. I'm from Utah. And everyone in breakout room 7, we were all from WIC. So we had a great discussion about updating the WIC food packages to better meet the current dietary guidelines for Americans and how those would be innovative to improve the nutrient intake of our participants. So one of the things we talked about was the choice of substituting proteins such as the canned fish, peanut butter, and beans, as well as extending who can have access to canned fish. So instead of just allowing breastfeeding women to receive it, opening that up to all participants and especially children to increase their fish intake, like Dr. Singh discussed. We also talked about allowing more substitutions for milk, such as more tofu and more yogurt. We also talked about how wonderful it is that WIC is expanding the cash value benefit to $35 per person throughout the summer. And so we are excited that that's happening. And we think if that could be continued, that would be excellent to improve fruit and vegetable intake. And then we also talked about being able to substitute fruit juice for more fresh fruits and vegetables to continue improving that fruit and vegetable intake. And then the last thing we talked about is alternative milks, how those are increasing in grocery stores and in the environment, and how those could change the food packages as well.
Thanks. What a nice group of, the WIC, good WIC representation in that group. Thanks for sharing. And last but not least, I think this breakout room is mislabeled. I think you are actually group 10, room 10.
Most of us were from WIC, and then the other 2 were from UC Berkeley. So we were discussing mainly WIC stuff. Let's see. So yeah, as others said, we're adding the $35 cash value voucher. And then in Hawaii, we are considering adding farmers markets, but not there yet. But hopefully, eventually, that would be another vendor, just so that more people have more options, and then they can actually get like local produce, which would be good for more people. And then we were talking about like the potential to change the jarred fruits and vegetables to more like a cash value voucher kind of deal. Let's see. So if they are exclusively nursing, usually they can get more cash, but not the complete thing. And then we are also discussing if they're exclusively nursing, they also get meats. But I guess in Oregon, as well as Hawaii, they don't always eat the jarred meats. So I don't know if it's a waste or what. So and then even like the fruits and vegetables, like the exclusively nursing moms, they're more likely to make their own food instead of use the jars. So we're just wondering if we should convert it more to cash. And then lastly, we were just wondering if there might be any recommendations for like freshly made baby foods versus jarred baby foods, even though we offer the jars, just so it's convenient. Yeah.
Nice to have WIC Hawaii here represented.
This is Jamie. I just wanted to follow up. I think it was Frank who talked about the gardening. I'm actually working with one of our local SNAP Ed programs because they can't teach gardening. The SNAP educators can't, and they can't teach food preservation. But as a master gardener, I'm certified to do both because I'm a certified food preservation specialist. So we are actually implementing some of that in a traditional SNAP Ed class to see how that goes. And we have had a lot of interest. So I think we can get creative, and I think it's great that you can do, it's too bad that there are those rules that create silos, but there are ways around it. Find a master gardener.
Yeah, that's what. So I heard that. So collaborating with master gardeners, master food preservers. Hopefully, if you're in a land grant institution, they might be living in a place where they could connect.
Monica, this is Carol, and that is such a great idea. Thank you, Jamie, for bringing it up. We really, I think that's one of the areas that we underuse are the master gardeners, and they are fantastic. When my sister, when she retired from Boeing, that was her goal, to become a master gardener. And so it just opened up my eyes. I was kind of embarrassed. So I really think it's something that we should definitely focus on, be partners with them.
Thanks.
Do we have time for one more question that's in the chat by Susan?
Sure.
Okay,
yes.
so Jamie, she's wondering, did they discuss weight, such as weight at any size versus moving towards ideal weight?
In the background information, there's a focus on actually trying to stay within calorie limits, to stay weight neutral. We didn't focus on the weight at any size versus necessarily weight loss, because there was some disagreement in terms of the specific approach to that and how it fit within the dietary guidelines. We really are focused on food patterns and not weight itself, but we wanted to reflect, and you'll see that the wording in the dietary guidelines does try to reflect that you make choices that keep you at a healthy weight. And we didn't define what healthy weight was necessarily. I don't know if that helps, but.
Jamie, there's also one last question regarding what weight neutral means.
Oh, yeah. So weight neutral, it was mainly for people to make choices that stay within their recommended calorie levels. And so one of the things you find, and if you go into, as I said, there's some extra materials online, which are fascinating. There have been some food pattern modeling exercises that have been done both in 2015 and now this committee that looked at if you make a typical choice versus what's recommended. And that is a piece that I don't think people understand about. When we do that analysis, it actually picks the most nutrient dense form of food. So it's like poached chicken breast, not the way it's typically eaten, but the lowest calorie level. Your dessert is actually an animal cracker, which I don't know how many people actually eat animal crackers, but they are the most nutrient dense form of dessert. So what they're modeling is an ideal diet, not a typical diet. And if you look at the typical diet for an average person, it's about 260 to 300 calories more if you make a typical choice than what is modeled. And so with respect to that, we were trying to help to encourage people to think about what's within each of the food pattern categories and make the best choice that they can. Yeah, I can do a whole talk on that. That's a whole fascinating thing about what goes on in the food pattern modeling.
It's very interesting. Now I'm reflecting on animal crackers as a new dessert source for our
There you go.
But well, thank you guys for a really great conversation. And so we'll have a break and we'll come back. Feel free, turn off your camera, mute yourself, go, have a dance party, and we'll see you in a little while. Thank you.